Hey, welcome my friends, here we are. It is the 6th of October 2021 here in New Zealand, 9 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, chat with Matt time. How are you? Hopefully I'm in the Bright Light Beings Facebook group, my free Facebook group, and we're here to chat about whatever is up for you. What's going on? I'm back in New Zealand as of Saturday, so here we are Wednesday morning, still acclimatising, hence the big woolly jumper after 4 months in tropical Cook Islands. And it's new moon. It's new moon in about 15 hours or so. 15 and a half hours, something like that. It'll be just after midnight, my time tonight. It's 9 a.m, so about 15 hours away till the new moon. So traditionally this is a time when we may be feeling a little bit down, a little bit tired, a little bit lethargic, a little bit heavy and dense. It is a time of introspection. It is a time when a lot of old stuff can be arising to release. The old death before the new beginning. New moons are the start of a new lunar cycle. We're just in the last 15 hours of the old lunar cycle, so there's a completion happening at this time. So you don't need to make anything special of that, but just be aware if you are feeling dense or heavy or discordant or tired, rather than make it wrong, just allow yourself to trust that it's part of a normal process, a normal cycle that is beneficial if you relax into acceptance around it. Hey Sister Jane and whoever else is joining us. I have a couple of questions written in ahead of time, so bit of reading to do. I haven't had a chance to read it. I've just got straight off another call. Hey Sister Christina, for my Bright Light client attraction process Q&A call. I've just come off chatting on that and here I am. So I haven't had a chance to read these and I will do right now. Zena wrote in, who's in Australia, really curious to know how you are feeling being back in New Zealand and navigating restrictions after the relative freedom of the Cook Islands. Things are pretty intense in Australia and I'm experiencing lots of anger coming up with the increased pressure that is being applied to so many aspects of our lives. Sometimes I can switch to an overview perspective of observation from a soul, but most of the time it's being stuck back into an emotional 3D vortex. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. Sister Jane said, yes, feeling really tired. So just be an allowance of feeling tired, and we're holding space for you and all. So for me, being back in New Zealand hasn't been too bad at all. In our part of New Zealand, we're in level 2, which basically means there's not a huge amount of restriction to us other than now the new level 2, which I'm not particularly happy about, but hasn't overly influenced me very much at all, is that you have to wear a mask when going into various shops and retail experiences. So in the 5 days or 4 days or whatever it's been that I've been back in New Zealand, I've probably had to wear a mask for about 2 hours in total in my forays to the supermarket and the fresh food market. What do we call that? Greengrocer, fruit market. And did I wear it anywhere else? I've nipped in somewhere that I had to put my mask on because I almost forgot when I got to the door. Yeah, just common sense. That was last night, and there was one other. But anyway, so yeah, we just have to remember to pop a mask on going into a shop, which I do very rarely. To be honest, I've spent most of the 4 days since I've got back in the garden. Our gardens, it's spring here and our gardens were well overgrown. Our sons had managed not to mow the lawn in 4 months since we'd been away, so that was well over my knees, and so that took a bit of doing. And we're also weeding like mad and fertilizing our fruit trees and preparing, and we have a retreat starting this weekend, and we're leaving tomorrow to go to that, which is just locally as in 2-hour drive away. So the restrictions have not affected me personally, externally, terribly much at all. We don't watch the news and we stay pretty low-key on it all. I have, however, chosen to enter several debates online. Now that I'm back in New Zealand, I have chosen to be a little bit more vocal in defending people's right to bodily autonomy and freedom, basically, and to help mitigate or help illuminate, really, and then to mitigate this division that has been created by various agendas, helped out by media channels promoting very divisive narratives and very authoritarian and polarizing perspectives on things, you know, like one way is right to, e.g., get a vaccination, and the other is wrong to not, right, to is you know, detrimental. And just sharing some facts, you know, not down the rabbit hole with conspiracy tin hat wearing stuff, which I do visit from time to time. I am up to date with many of these conspiracy theories, but I choose not to share much of it because I can't validate that much of it is actually true. But what I can share is facts and figures that are on the government's websites and the like, which are not highly publicised by said media, but are nonetheless there, right? The conditions under which this vaccine that's been rolled out in New Zealand was approved, the fact that many of those conditions have not been met, even though the time period has elapsed, and various other things, right? The official statistics, or the official statistics on adverse reactions, there for all to read, and even the admission on the official statistics that basically say this is only a percentage of adverse reactions, as many are not reported or not reported well. So the point is, what I've noticed in some of my friends and acquaintances' posts is many reasonably well-educated, intelligent people are taking a very narrow-minded, belligerent view that their perspective, the official narrative, is correct, and anyone who is not following that is basically endangering the whole of society, right? I've heard people say, you know, these vaccine hesitant or these anti-vaxxers are holding the whole of our society to ransom because until they get the vaccine, we will not be given our freedoms back. Intelligent people are holding this viewpoint that that's correct. And so, you know, I'm choosing to compassionately as possible, which is not, you know, I am sometimes a little bit blunt in pointing out that people's points of view are very polarized and reasonably arrogant, that they're not really, and uneducated. That's the point. These are intelligent people, but they're presenting uneducated viewpoints, uneducated to the point where they haven't even read the official websites about this stuff. You know, they haven't read Pfizer's website. They don't know all of the lists of contradictions. They don't know just the basic stuff, and yet they're very, very belligerent in saying that their way is right, the vaccine is 100% safe, that it's been approved, but been approved under what? You know, so anyway, just pointing out the very basic stuff to people. So, you know, yeah, exactly, as JP put out, you know, wear a life jacket to save other people's lives. You know, but I haven't even gone into arguing that potentially, you know, herd immunity is a falsity, and specifically with this vaccine that openly states that it doesn't actually prevent the transmission of the disease, right? It openly states that on the Pfizer's own website, and yet people still bleat on about herd immunity. You're not going to get herd immunity with a vaccine, and even that's in inverted commas because it is coming out more and more that this, you know, is not a vaccine, even though it's widely called a vaccine. But the point is, you can't have herd immunity for something that is not stopping transmission. So it doesn't matter how many people get it, we're not going to protect the vulnerable because it doesn't stop transmission. But yet, when you point that out to people, they poo-poo you and just want to call you anti-vax or, you know, whatever. So, conspiracy theorist. So I'm choosing to enter these debates in a very logical, scientific way where I give reference to all of my points to official websites and even take screenshots and highlight it for those who are too fucking lazy to go and look at the website, because it might actually interfere with what they are choosing to believe from their very narrow-minded, uneducated point of view. So this is the point. We're dealing with a lot of people who are relatively eloquent and powerful in their own right, who are choosing to propagate an uneducated viewpoint based on what they think is right on their very narrow education. So I am entering that fray, and I feel that I will probably become a little more vocal in that fray as time progresses. I've chosen not to be overly vocal while being in Cook Islands. One, for reasonably selfish reasons, that I didn't really want to burst my own bubble and I was enjoying where I was living, where COVID wasn't an issue at all. And two, I didn't feel on some level in integrity to be talking about the issues that are going on here in New Zealand while I was basically skylarking over in the Cook Islands, lying on the beach and enjoying every freedom in the world. But now that I'm back, I feel that I do have a platform on which to speak on this topic and to hold a space for rational debate and conversation around the pros and cons of any potential treatment or way of dealing with this situation, this shitty situation. Anyway, so hopefully that helped, Zena. I am very happy to take some questions from here. This wasn't intended to be Matt's rant on quote-unquote COVID. Anyhow, it is a very politicized debate, and you know, some of the shit that I'm reacquainting myself with. I saw a little highlight that someone had taken from YouTube, which is our Prime Minister stating that she intends the government to be the one true source, the one source of truth. We will continue to be your one true source. No, your one source of truth. Like, fuck. Is there any more warning signs that we're entering into a totalitarian regime than a government professing to, endeavouring to be the one source of truth, right? This is coming out of a Prime Minister's mouth. It's concerning, to say none the least, right? That they want full control of all information. How insecure are they to need that and to desire that? And as Zena pointed out, it is easy to get angry in these situations. And anger, my friends, is not wrong. It's how you manage your anger and channel your anger. That is what is important. That is what is important. Because to have a degree of anger is going to light a fire under your ability to act. To take the risk to step out of your comfort zones and to speak for what you feel is diminishing your ability to stay safe, right? Anger is basically your reaction to having your needs unmet. That is what anger is. Yeah, a lot of people think Jacinda is wonderful because she saved us all from COVID. Yes. But anywho's, so yes, be willing to be angry and allow yourself to not make yourself wrong. Anger has been much maligned on this planet for a long time. Various authoritarian entities, governments, churches, organizations have made anger very wrong. Particularly the church has made anger very wrong because angry people create revolutions. Angry people sharpen their pitchforks and overthrow their oppressors, right? So it's very convenient to make anger wrong. And therefore, when people get angry, they then start feeling guilty for doing something that's wrong. So it's been made out that anger is very dangerous. Anger means that you lose control of yourself. Anger means opens yourself up to the work of the devil, etc., etc. So that when people get angry, they then immediately start feeling guilty. And guilty people are very easy to control. guilty people are very, very easy to control. You keep them in their shame and you keep their heads down so that no one else finds out how guilty they are about being angry. So this is the point. We must be willing to own our anger, and we must be willing to use our anger, to channel our anger in empowered ways, right? Not just lashing out in rage because we've suppressed anger for so long that it bursts out of us in inappropriate times, in inappropriate ways. Quite often, many of us who feel guilty about being angry in public only let our anger come out at the people who don't deserve it, the people who are close to us, the people who actually support us tend to bear the brunt of our anger, and it does, and it has done, and it will continue to destroy many relationships for people who are not willing to own their anger and be expressive in it. Especially has been true for women. Still, the idea that an angry woman is ugly and wrong, it persists. True. Women are supposed to be compassionate and nurturing, not angry and forthright. And it's a shame that women have been pushed into a corner where they are so angry. But that is just the nature of where our society has gone in repressing their needs for so long. So many of us who are aligned with the divine feminine and the desire for collaboration and community spirit are very angry through successive generations and lifetimes of being suppressed and repressed. So hopefully that helps, Zena. Anyway, I haven't read what Tracy wrote, so I better do that. And maybe there's a question in there that is worthy of some conversation. Tracy started, I didn't realise how intense the restrictions were in New Zealand. In Alberta, we are almost free, just masks and lower indoor capacities, but now back to stricter measures for those unvaxxed, passports in effect. I've been in northwestern US and restaurants are open, etc., with tables fairly close together, not strict on masks in most places. I feel I need to stay where restrictions don't affect me to keep my mind off it, keep stresses low. I feel bad for my friends, but I also have to not feel bad where I'm at. I just keep affirming I'm always in the right place at the right time for being, feeling free and safe. Oh, add abundant in there. Also not bringing in an income presently. I'm blessed to be roaming where I wish not. I am blessed to be roaming where I wish, not caring about states, politics, etc. Americans are so ramped up on politics. I'm already worried about returning to Canada, which isn't until spring. Feels like it's definitely changing there. It will continue to change, Tracy. I think that's the exciting thing, that things are changing and they're changing so quickly. I think that is a great opportunity for us as a collective and for us individually. Please don't make the fact that things are changing and changing quickly and unpredictably a wrongness. I think this is all a great opportunity to release various energies that have been suppressed in our society and in ourselves for a long time. You know, this ramping up of COVID restrictions, this bringing in of COVID passports, vaccine passports, and etc. is not a wrongness, right? It's not a wrong that these things are happening. It would be unfortunate if these things were to stick for any length of time. But the fact that they're being introduced and being proposed is actually an opportunity. And so please don't allow ourselves, all of us, I'm talking to everyone here, including myself, to contract around the idea that wrong things are happening. Wrong things are not happening. This is all part of a process of attaining our empowered freedom. This shit has to come to the surface. These potentials have to be aired as real possibilities so that people get an opportunity to make a choice. Now, those of us who stand on the side of freedom and open-hearted collaborative living obviously are concerned that so many people seem so ready to embrace these restrictions on freedom in exchange for them feeling that they might be more safe, right? They will, not die. They will maintain their life for a few more breaths, even if it's imprisoned. So that's concerning, but I would encourage you not to fear it, because this is not going to change any other way than the way that it's going. This shit has to come up, and these opportunities have to be tabled. And our job is to stay confident in expressing our desires for the freedom and expressing our beingness as a free person, despite whatever they might try and mandate, right? If we go back to Nelson Mandela's, awesome example of living so long imprisoned and choosing to maintain his energetic freedom of his state of being. It was a challenge, and he writes very eloquently, silent, passionately about his experiences, which is very inspiring. His choice to maintain his intention to be free and empowered, despite the fact that he was imprisoned for his political views and his outspokenness. This is the point. And eventually, of course, he won, quote unquote, if there's a winner in such an experience. His energetic intent came to be profoundly influential in a good way, although it's still going through, the situation in Africa in general is still an ongoing evolution that, is, to some people's perception, has not progressed as well as they would like. All things being considered, it's a progression and it's moving. Yeah, Paulie, I can't talk to you on the phone while I'm talking to you on chat with Matt. That's for certain. So, yeah. So the point is not to get too contracted in this whole situation. The fact that politics is being ramped up is a good thing. I think we need to shed light on the political situation in many of our societies, right? Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, America, many other parts of the world. The political situation is not good, right? The fact that both sides of our reasonably, dualistic options are sold out to big corporation interests, the technocrats, the oligarchs, the people with massive amounts of money and power on this planet who are calling the shots, and our politicians are merely puppets dancing. You can argue whether red or blue is correct, but ultimately neither are a meaningful difference. I know, America with Trump and all the rest of it, someone who was basically chose to be a little bit out of the control was, in some ways a breath of fresh air. Not that I believe he is the quote unquote savior, but did highlight, a lot of stuff. And now that we've seen it go back to democratic politics, which is supposed to be more liberal, more social, we see that, shit hasn't got better in many ways in America. Although people feel safer that there's not a maniac with the codes, right? But really, this is the point. This is the point. It's going to take some risks to break free of where we currently are. Yeah, I can imagine people were upset that Trudeau got back in Canada. But I see it as an opportunity for more corruption to be exposed, potentially. And, if the government had changed, only so much would have changed. Christina wrote, many revelations to come, like buried body rising from the swamp. It's all coming. Yeah, it is all going to come. And to what degree it will be digestible to the general population is going to be interesting. But, you know, there's huge amounts of revelations going on. There's court cases unfolding right as we speak. No, not quite right as we speak because it's not open yet. But, you know, at this present time in New South Wales, there's some interesting court cases happening. Post-holiday depression hit. Not really. I don't think I'm depressed at all. Or is that, are you talking about me or you, Paulie? No, I think I'm actually quite inspired. I've had a few big sleeps, but I couldn't say that I'm depressed at being back. Not at all. I'm quite excited in many ways. It's been a long time integrating some deep changes over the last 4 months, and yeah, it's going to be exciting how they unfold and are expressed. The little post that I put on, the poster that I'd made some time ago, and it's based on, I was going to hold up my thing, and it's, you know, it's about this painting that I did here on my wall, the Ankh, with the flower of life in the middle of it, the seed of life, more correctly. And I wrote next to it, it's impossible to live a full life while you fear death. And this is what a lot of this whole situation is hinging around. So many people are so fucking fearful of dying that they're willing to give away all of their ability to live in order to keep breathing, right? This perception that I'm alive, even though I've given away all opportunities for expressing myself as a sovereign being on the planet. It's not worth it, my friends. It's not worth it. We didn't come to this planet just to get in a set number of breaths under our belt and then go somewhere else, having passed the Earth test. This is not an Earth test to see how long you can stay alive. This is an opportunity to express your divinity on this planet. And being fearful of losing your physical life only holds you back. I'm not saying fucking be reckless and go and do stupid things. Like, I'm not playing Russian roulette to give yourself a sense of aliveness. But fearing death and trying to do everything to prevent you from getting the dreaded lurgy or anything else is counterproductive to you expressing yourself as a soul on this planet, and really counterproductive to actually bothering to come to this planet in the first place. It's not an easy place to come. For goodness sake, don't waste your opportunity being here without actually finding some fight in your soul to express yourself. So this, you know, it's important. Do you know Julie Parker? When people say to her, you might die from COVID, she says, well, yes, of course I will die. Yes, of course I will die. Everyone will die. That's the point. No, I don't know Julie Parker. Awesome. I'm glad you keep seeing the Ankh, Sister Christina. Yeah, the point is we're all going to die. And the point is none of us know when and how. And if it is of COVID, then so be it. And if it is of something else, then that's going to happen too. But the point, I got your name from her. Well, obviously I do know her then. But a lot of people know me, and I have to admit that I am reasonably hopeless with names and remembering who's who and who's where. But that's just it. We don't put a lot of, I like to meet people in the moment for who they are, and not to overly hang on to my history of interaction with people, you know. So yeah, I always recognize faces, and I quite often recognize voices too, but doesn't necessarily mean I can put a voice on the person, put a name on the person. And quite often I can't remember what our past interactions were either, which is also can be a little bit embarrassing as a human, but also is a great opportunity to meet people where they are in the moment and not to be overly influenced by what's happened in the past. Some people would say, well, that's very dangerous, Matt, because you should be remembering what people have done to you in the past so you can avoid it happening again in the future. That's an old way of thinking, right? Where this intellect wants to hang on to a body of information that has been collected through history, right, what happened in the past, to try and avoid bad things happening in the future. I tend to believe that intuitively I will be guided into how best to act in this now moment, which will bring to me the best opportunities for my future, rather than trying to mentally micromanage not having bad things happen based on what bad things might have happened in the past. I'm willing to interact with this moment as best I can in the now moment, to have what is potentially available to have happen now, irrespective of what might have happened in the past. Yeah, and exactly. It does surprise me too how much people perceive COVID as a threat. But then again, I did watch a little bit of television the other night, and they've still got these pinging ads that come on which sound like a warning signal talking about COVID every fucking 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. So the point is, people have been programmed into believing that COVID is a threat, despite the fact that the facts and figures really aren't there to substantiate that. They will cite, oh, but so-and-so died, this and that, and a lot of it is second, third-hand knowledge, and a lot of it is very spurious in its truth, right? A lot of it has been misrepresented and overstated. I was having this talk to my neighbour yesterday at the fence, because I was out weeding and remulching our yard, talking about, we're happy, unperturbed, that 500 people in New Zealand die every year of influenza. 23 people have died in the last year over COVID, and we've got all of these restrictions and all of this bullshit. And yes, I know that if we opened our borders and allowed COVID to come in, potentially more than 500 people would die of it. But the point is, death is all around us. And death is all, how many people are dying of all sorts of health issues that could be addressed with less drastic measures than we're taking to try and avoid COVID? This is the point, right? How many people could be saved from heart disease if we put some decent measures into helping people have better options food-wise and exercise-wise and lifestyle-wise, and teach people to breathe? How fucking hard would it be to mandate that people stop at work every 2 hours and fucking spend 2 minutes breathing deep? Far less detrimental to our frigging economy, right? In actual fact, we'll see productivity rise dramatically if we were to instigate some of these very basic measures to help improve people's well-being physically, psychologically, energetically. And yet we are not. We are not. Because is there any money in that? Absolutely not. We are being held hostage by pharmaceutical companies, basically, and the people who own those pharmaceutical companies, who ironically own the same supply chains for mass-produced food, the fertilizers, the fucking herbicides, the pesticides that go onto that. They are also educating our doctors. The list goes on. It's a very entangled mess of corruption, basically. And so the point is, none of these measures are about attaining or maintaining the health of the population. It is about attaining money and compliance so that money can be made in an ongoing way. Because once people enter the bandwagon of the vaccines, unfortunately, they're going to need to keep getting boosted, and their immune system is slowly but surely going to be eroded to some degree, because if you don't use it, you lose it. And you start tampering with something that works very well naturally, you degrade its ability to keep functioning well in a natural way. And so, we've seen this, we've already gone through this whole problem where, so much antibiotics cease to be very effective because we overused them as a population and the bugs got used to them. And so we're developing new medications, great, but it didn't have to be that way. If we didn't overprescribe the antibiotics to start with and allowed people to actually be sick for a little bit of time to help their immune system grow stronger, and to help them clear out some of the toxicity that's building up in their bodies, then antibiotics would still be a very good option when people really need them. So we're doing the same thing with vaccinations. We're, overusing them so to the point where then our immune systems are going to be overly compromised and dependent on continual vaccine or artificial stimuli which is a very good place to be if you are making and selling those vaccines, especially if the government then gives you completely get off scot-free, no responsibility for any adverse reactions. What better business model is there where you've got something mandated so everyone in the population needs to take it? You don't have to pay any compensation if you get it wrong and hurt people, and you get to name your price. I tried to find out how much the New Zealand government was paying. We paying with our taxpayer money, how much we're paying for these vaccines. And you know what? It hasn't been decided yet. Or at least it hasn't been published, right? It hasn't been published. No one knows how much these are costing per shot. No one knows. Or at least it's not publicly available. So we, the taxpayer, are paying for something that is being mandated, or at least, highly incentivized by restricting the ability to do anything at all if you haven't had it. We don't even know how much it's costing us. The company who's making them has no financial obligation to make this thing safe. No financial obligation to make this safe. And so, how can you not... I'm back. How can you not have a theory that there's a conspiracy at foot? Ridiculous. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. But there we are. That's where we're at. It doesn't help to get, upset about it. Righteous anger is appropriate, but not losing your cool, right? Laughing is actually a valid way of processing some of this energy. So is crying. I don't hold back. I don't think anyone is wrong for getting upset to the point of tears around this situation. But anywho's, it's a very, very interesting place we be, and I recognise that I've probably gone well over my time, my half hour. So that's Matt's chat with Matt Rave, over and done with this morning. If you have any questions, comments or concerns, please feel free to argue. Please feel free to pop in with a counter narrative or a point of view that you might have that challenges what I've stated. I will put this here right now that I'm not here to tell you how to think. I'm not here to indoctrinate you into my way of thinking. I'm not here to teach you any facts or share with you any intellectual knowledge. I am here to stimulate a process of transformation. I'm here to challenge you. I'm here to potentially inspire you to inquire what's going on. I'm here to inspire you to perhaps do some practices that might help you maintain a state of relaxed awareness of what's going on around you. But I'm not here to tell you how to think or what to think. I'm here to inspire you to actually grow into someone who does think and feel and intuit what's going on around you, so that you can act in a more empowered way, in a more authentic way, in your own community, in your own society, in your own life. So please don't think that you need to agree with anything that I say. I am very happy and do have many of my clients vaccinated and very happy with their vaccinations, and I'm very happy for them. I'm not someone to say that vaccination is completely wrong. I have my own points of view that I am not intending to overly use it myself, because I feel that my own immune system is better off on its own for the most part, and that is a opinion that is open to transform and grow and change over time. I'm not ruling out that I will get the vaccination. But I'm not in a hurry to, not at this stage, not with the safety data so incomplete and the trials so poorly, monitored. They've basically given up because there's no need to, because the governments are mandating something and they don't have any safety obligation, so why should they? And that's another crazy thing. Why are we relying on the people who manufacture something to do the safety trials on them? That's a conflict of interest to start with. The people, the entity that's paying the scientists to do the safety trials is the entity that's making the vaccine. Of course, the scientists are going to be influenced by that money. we have to, as a society, get back to impartial, non-conflict of interest research, and it's just not happening at the moment. All research that is done around all of this mRNA technology, and I'm not against the technology, I think it's fantastic. I read a huge big post about history of mRNA development last night, and it's fascinating and it's an amazing science, and I think it does hold a lot of potential good on this planet, because in time they're going to be able to use this to correct genetic deficiencies in people, not by altering their DNA, but by stimulating a response that helps people overcome the deficiencies that their body is showing up with based on a lack of their own ability to produce the specific proteins that are essential to living a functional life. So I think that's fascinating and beneficial. But the point is, all of that research was done with the intent of monetary gain. And some people say, well, that's the fantastic nature of capitalism. And I agree, there's good points to that, right? But things are always manipulated where beneficial outcomes arise, but there's no potential to monetize it, right? We say you discover how you could simply improve the livelihoods of everyone on the planet, but there's no monetary gain. That information gets shelved, right? Because ultimately, someone posted Canada was paying $24 per shot at 80% markup. That's interesting. That sounds quite cheap to me. But anyway, who knows? I do know that these mRNA, yeah, I'm saying that right, vaccines are cheaper to manufacture generally than traditional vaccinations that have a more live reagent in it, or different manufacturing process. But then there's a lot of instability in their ability. A big part of the problem with them, according to what I've been reading, is the potential for impurities to get into the mix. The manufacturing process uses various catalysts, for want of a better term, that can leave impurities in it. And part of what Pfizer hasn't done in New Zealand, and they were supposed to have it done by 29th of August, right? Some of the Gazette clauses in the Gazette, which they've only 25% addressed, that are supposed to be met for full approval of this vaccine. Everyone says, oh, it's approved, it's approved. Yes, it's approved under Section 23, which is temporary approval based on more information being presented and more study being done. And they seem to be lagging and falling behind on that, and no one seems to be talking about it, which is rather interesting. But a lot of the clauses in there are around assurances that these impurities aren't left in what is being injected into people, because that is being highlighted as one of the potential big problems with this. So it's not particularly the mRNA active ingredient encased in the liposome parcel that actually influences a immune cell to produce a protein that then creates an immune response to something that hasn't actually entered in, right? A trick with this mRNA particle, which is interesting science. But the problem is the manufacturing process is prone to leaving impurities in this shit. And a lot of people are conjecturing that one of the big ones is graphene oxide, which is, causing a lot of issues for those who are showing up with adverse reactions. So anyway, there's a lot of information out there. I'm not here to say yay or nay. I am here to support everyone, and I really don't care whether you choose to get a vaccination or not. I don't really care what your personal opinions are, as long as you are willing to allow other people to have their personal opinions and not get so my way is right and everyone else's way is wrong. 22 to 30 bucks a vaccine. 27 billion the company made in profit. Yeah, there's a lot more profit to come as this thing continues, that's for sure. Anyway, friends, now I have gone way over time, so I will get off this chat with Matt. Much, much love to you all, my friends. Look forward to serving you in some way, anyway. And if you feel to reach out, then reach out, whether privately or publicly. Very happy to inspire your growth and our growth and my growth, for that matter. I grow through this process. So thank you all very much for choosing to give me this platform and choosing to be an audience to me, basically going through my own process of being willing to speak out. Much love. Bye for now.